$9 specials from Walmart. All right. Is that by chance any better?
Oh, yeah, so far 100% better. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Okay. I guess let's start over real quick. So, everybody, thanks for joining me. This is Rusty from TCA Gaming. If you're watching this, you obviously know who Rusty is by now. But Rusty, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your business, and yeah.
Well, so my name's Rusty. I run a store called TCA Gaming. Been selling Pokemon full time for 8 years now. I collected back when I was a kid, probably around the 2000 era. I was 10 years old. I remember buying one of my first purchases. I paid $5 for 10 common cards. It was like a Kabuto and a bunch of cards like that. We used to trade on the bus, and teachers would want to take them away. And then when I got to middle school, I ended up getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! And then I got into girls and kind of dropped off for a little bit. And then when I was in high school, I sold cards before class to make extra money on the side. And then by the time I went to college, I was kind of getting back into Pokemon. I had a roommate that kind of liked the stuff, and I started selling. That was in 2008. I started selling on eBay, just some extras that I had to try to complete some sets that I had, which were Fossil, Base, and Jungle. Back then, those sets were like $5 for the complete set, but I wanted to try to complete it myself. And by the time I graduated, it was a full-time gig.
So that you actually brought up girls and high school and stuff.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads me to a question. A lot of people think we're in a bubble right now. You hear it everywhere. But the way I view it is, a few years after Pokemon came out, we were all around 9, 10, 11 years old. A few years later, we were in high school. So we got out of Pokemon. I think what you're seeing now since the 2016, Pokemon Go is people just falling back into it when previously it either wasn't cool or they were too busy. But now we're slowly just falling back into it, and I don't think it's a bubble at all. And you see all these influencers and everybody, it's just getting bigger and bigger, and the original people are just slowly coming back. It's a little exponential right now since everybody's at home still. But
Right.
is that how you view it, or do you think people outside of Pokemon are having too big of an effect? Is that good? Is that bad? How are you viewing everything right now?
I think there are investor influences on the hobby, but that's just because it's lucrative right now.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the people that have been in the hobby, they're still in it. I mean, there's genuine interest coming from a lot of the people, and people are having fun opening up new product, collecting the old product. I mean, you got to think all the cards right now that were playable. I mean, they've tanked because of playability prices because, you don't have leagues and all this kind of stuff going on like you did before. I mean,
Right.
Some cards, they have been reprinted like crazy, but still people are in the hobby. They're entering into it. Maybe some of those collectors who were players, or some of those people who were players are now collectors because they don't see as much of a chance in that side of the hobby. But I really think that people are in the hobby because they love it and they want to invest in their childhood. They want to invest in that nostalgic feeling, and the price going up all the time, and that's just kind of a bonus.
Yeah, I'd say a big bonus for us who kind of got into it earlier. So some questions for you, man. Do you remember a specific moment or anything that got you back into the hobby?
Well, when I was 16, I think I was 16, my older brother, he let me use his eBay account, and I bought a base set box for $100. And he ended up giving me back that $100. I saved up for the longest time because I thought it was a good deal. I remember seeing there was this record auction for a base first edition pack, and it went for $67, and people were going nuts over it. I mean, there was other people posting base first edition packs saying, hey, this pack sold for a record price, $67, on this date, and everybody else was trying to get $70 out of their pack. And I was like, let me get a base limited box, while I still can. Has that original yellow color on it and everything. My brother bought it for me. And then I kind of laid off for a little bit until I went back to college for another 2 years. And then when I went there with him, and we just started battling, we used our old decks. We didn't know how to battle. I mean, it was pretty bad the way we were using our cards. We were still using Bill and Gust of Wind and all these cards that are just like completely broken on normal game because you can't use them now. But we would play them, and then just playing that game, it brought back all those old memories of when I was a kid. I used to play with kids and trade, and it did the same thing for him. So I had, both of us were there at college. His name is Casey, and we were collecting, we were trading. We'd go to the Target and go buy a Mewtwo Level X10 for $20 or whatever it was. You'd find them on sale every now and then. And it was just a lot of fun, kind of working, because everything was cheap. So, I mean, it really wasn't any cost, but, I mean, we basically knew that everything we put into it, we weren't going to get back. I mean, it was most likely just something that we were investing in for ourselves.
Yeah. Did you have your original collection when you got back into it, or is that long gone?
I did. I remember I needed a non-hollow Articuno from Fossil Set. I believe I needed Chansey from Base Set. And then I think it was a non-holographic Dark Weezing from Team Rocket. And those are the cards that I was after. I used to sell 5-card lots, and I would sell those and get $2 or $3 out of them, and then I'd try to go, get something else for my collection, and it just kind of snowballed.
When I got back into it, that's after I saw Gary's episode on Pawn Stars, and I called up my parents, and I found my old cards. Like, I had boxes full of just WotC Hollows and stuff. So when you got back in, you probably had less because you were like going after finishing collections and that kind of stuff, you'd say? Or
oh yeah, I didn't have hardly anything. I had nothing sealed. I had probably no commons left. It was just those original 3 sets that I had started but just never finished. I was bigger into Yu-Gi-Oh at the time, and in fact I played a little bit of Magic the Gathering in high school with some of my buddies who liked to battle with that kind of stuff. But through buying and selling, I was able to build the collection to what it is now.
Okay, so in your words, how would you say you got to where you are now? What was? Do you think you just timing, or do you think it's hard work, or having a pulse on the market, or what got you here? You think?
Well, I think it's like the first 4 years. I mean, I was just in college doing it on the side. I mean, I didn't have any income. I didn't have any money to start up, the business at all. I just had those original collections, and it was just buying and selling, and slowly, I mean, it built up, and the hobby grew as well. I mean, I would go around to every place I could in Raleigh. I went to NC State, and I'd go around to all the local places in Raleigh and be like, hey, I'd like to buy your collection. I'd buy all the extra cards. I'd get on eBay and search that kind of stuff. I'd set aside promos and find the deals that I could. I mean, it took a lot of, searching. I used to get on PokeGym quite a bit. I mean, I was a newbie back then, so I was, talking to all these people, trying to find out more information. And, I was talking with someone earlier today, Scott, and I was basically telling him, like at this point, I have a doctorate, I feel like, in Pokemon, because every single day I get on here and I spend so much time researching everything, and it's been this way for now 12 years that I've been doing it, and then 8 years full time. Wow. And I think that's what it takes. I mean, you have to invest your time and effort, and it's not just something that you can immediately turn over. If you just come into the hobby and you don't have the knowledge of all these different sets and the market and that kind of stuff, even if you pour in $100,000 to a business, it's not like it's going to immediately give you something that you could do as a full-time job. I think you would need closer to the 7-figure mark to get into the market at this point, and to be able to do it all by yourself, and that be your sole income. But if you have that much money, then you're probably not going to be trying to have a Pokemon job.
That leads me to a good question. Say you're starting from new right now. All your inventory's gone. Goodbye. Nothing. You have $5,000 to $10,000. What would be your game plan? I know that's kind of putting you on the spot, but what comes to mind?
So if I was going to do something like that,
yeah, we're not talking collecting. I know we're both collectors, but you have such a knowledge. You're one of the big. If there was a Mount Rushmore of Pokemon buyers and sellers, you'd definitely be on there. So I kind of want to pick your brain with your strategy and everything. So yeah, if you came in with $5,000 to $10,000, what would you do?
I would probably go back to what I know. What I know started helping me, at the very beginning, that was really cheap, easy to find, easy to grade, lots of people to buy, and that's promos. If you look at, say, something like the Ivy Pikachu, easy 10, Bumblebee Pikachu, easy 10. Yeah. And I think I'd priced out an Ivy Pikachu yesterday. The lowest one on eBay was like $430. Yeah. But you can go find that card for less than $5. people love the card. It's the very first promo. I think you could take certain promos that are very affordable, invest in a large amount of them, then you could have them PSA graded. The 8s and 9s are still going to make your money back, and the 10s are going to be you have a lot of profit margin. Because that's what I've done for years. I mean, I have, like off to the side over here, it's just a wall of promos. I go back to it, and I submit promos every single week with a new bulk order. And I have tons of sealed ones as well. Even the WB promos, I mean, they're like $100, $200. I mean, just for the PSA 10s. And you have these opportunities as well with the newer stuff. Something I invested in recently was the Battle Academy decks, those new collections that come out on July 31st. If you go to a retailer, I mean, you're going to pay $20 and you get 3 decks. You get a Mewtwo deck, you get a Charizard deck, you get a Pikachu deck. In the Charizard deck, it has an exclusive GX and it has an exclusive non-holo from Dragon Majesty. So you have the Hidden Fates and Dragon Majesty Charizard. Either one of those, I mean, right now, even if you just took, like the Let's Play Eevee is kind of similar to it. It's like a $300 PSA 10. The Generations one, it's like not Generations, the Hidden Fates one is like $150 in PSA 10. Now it's exclusive because it's got the Charizard mark on it. And you paid maybe $4 for that deck. And it's an easy PSA 10. You can't tell me that you couldn't easily make $50 a piece off on each one of those decks. Yeah. And you're not investing that much. Really, your biggest constraint is your time. If you don't have to be running around, chasing after debt, selling off quickly, that's the biggest thing you need. You need time to be able to sit on your stuff, to be able to allow it to come back from PSA. You need time to be able to let it sit on the market and sell for a good price and not liquidate.
And the Battle Academy thing, that's that board game that comes with three.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a big thing. I mean, all the cards inside of it have their own little mark on it. I mean, it's not something that would go crazy. I mean, if everybody invested all at once, then yeah, it's going to drive the price down. But even still, a PSA 10 Charizard, you're going to get $40 for that all day long. And right now, I would think to compete, you have to be at $100 because the price of the next best thing is like $150.
Yeah, and a lot more people are buying the new ETBs and stuff. Not many people. I don't think many people are really lining up to buy the board games. So
right,
that's a pretty good call. What's your I go through this a lot. My collection has gone up tremendously. It's kind of life-changing sums of money for my wife and I. But I feel like, first of all, I'm a collector, so I don't want to sell. But thinking life-wise, if I do sell today, I feel like that's just a quick fix for a while. It'll be nice for a while.
Right.
I feel like holding on to them is more of a game plan for life. It sets up better. What's your thought process on selling cards for a profit versus holding, especially if you think the cards will go up? What selling versus holding? Like, what's your thought process when making that decision?
For me, whenever possible, I will sell stuff that is cheaper. I will try to move that stuff out the door a lot more quickly than I will something that's higher end, because I know if I ever want it again, then I'm going to be paying probably more than whatever I sell it for, or it's just going to be impossible to find.
Yeah.
To me, the little cards are nice because they have an upside, they're easy to find, and you can sell them quickly without little attachment. If you ever have to get them back, you can get them back again. But the big cards, I try to keep those whenever I can, set them back. And then, if I want to sell them, I can. But I'm not looking for, trying to sell everything, for the lowest price possible, because there's really no point in trying to be that lowest price seller, because right now the market is only showing an indication that everything that's rare is going to continue increasing in price. It's better than inflation. It's definitely better than most of the money that you can just set in a bank. It's better than a CD yield. It's better than stocks. The way I see it, it's retirement. And I set it back, and then maybe one day when I realize, hey, I don't need this anymore, I'd like to spend money so I can enjoy it with some kind of emotional attachment to whatever it is that I'm doing with my kids or with my family, or just enjoying some kind of experience, then I feel like I could sell and I wouldn't have any regrets.
Do you ever – I feel like it's an irrational fear because I can't logically explain to myself why I have this fear. But do you ever have the fear of one day there being a crash? Like, I would know no reason why there would be one outside of macroeconomic things. And if that happens, then everything's, screwed. It doesn't matter. So do you ever find fear talking to you, saying, start moving cards?
I think my wife does. She thinks
Yeah. So
but
I think that's where that comes from.
but for me, if it did, I would still enjoy everything that I have. And I don't have, like, I'm not a slave to debt, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
when we bought our home, I sold parts of my Pokemon collection to fund the home. We bought it. It was $35,000 for our double wide and for our land. And then, it was a foreclosure. So we worked on it ourselves. We had no debt on it. Same thing with our vehicles. We worked to pay to buy them. And the only debt that I've really accrued recently is we ended up buying a rental or something, but it pays for itself, and it's a different type of income that one day it could pay off. It could be something that my wife could pursue and then pay for all of us. But for me, I think if you're not a slave to debt, then you don't really have that to worry about because you're not going to need the money. Like, everything I buy is super cheap. I mean, I still go to Little Caesars and buy a $5 pizza. I mean, I can tell you the price of milk and everything else because we don't spend a ton of money. I mean, we live pretty low key. I mean, my shoes are, you see, they're little $9 specials from Walmart. It's not something that we live luxuriously so that we have to worry about that kind of thing going away if we don't have the money.
What do you think about these people coming in with their Rolex in every picture and their swimming pools and all this stuff? What do you think? Do you think that's a cancer on the hobby, that kind of attitude, or do you think that's good? Like, hey, rappers will start buying Pokemon cards, all this kind of stuff. Do you think that's good or bad for the hobby, or do you think it doesn't even matter?
Well, I mean, the fact that they have a Rolex or have giant swimming pools, I mean, that's not the big deal. I mean,
Mhm.
some people spend their money in that way. They can get more enjoyment out of that kind of stuff than in the same way that we could, with Pokemon cards. But I think it's about the attitude of the person themselves. I mean, if they come in and buy out the market of something, just because they want to buy it, I mean, that's really their choice. And if it's a bad investment, it's a bad investment, and it'll hit their wallet. And once it hits their wallet, they'll know.
Yeah. Going back on the promos, when I asked you what would be your strategy if you were just getting back into it, I did that for a while. I bought, when I could find big stacks of promos, Black Star promos, I would buy them. It seems to be a lot hard, obviously a lot harder now. Are you still able to find that kind of stuff? I guess it's outside of eBay. Is it people contacting you? Is it? Um,
Last year was a pretty good year for me. I mean, I found several 5,000 count boxes that were just straight mint promos.
wow.
I ran into several of the sealed boxes of the Intes, and I'm still trying to find a WB inverted promo sealed, but I haven't bought too many recently. I think mainly because I've been focusing on some other big sales. But whenever I get time, I mean, it's something that I search for. Like, I bought a bunch of Ancient Muse recently because the price on them have really started to surge. But yeah, it's still definitely something that I look for. It's just it usually comes in waves for me. When I get a feeling for, hey, I want to buy some more of this specific promo, then I go for it. I mean, right now I'm setting back a lot of the sealed promos like the Charizard Vs, the Shining Ho-Ohs,
Mhm.
the Articuno Moltres Zapdos. Right now, I mean, they're not too expensive. They'll probably go down in price some, but I think somewhere down the future, I mean, they have beautiful artworks. They're full arts. They're sealed, popular Pokemon. I'm going to set them back. I think they could be worth something down the road.
You brought up the upside down. Are you into error cards?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I
Okay.
definitely am. Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you go off on that then. Like, what are your favorite ones? Why do you like error cards? What do you think there's an error card out right now that's not getting the sort of respect it should be?
Well, everybody likes the Ninetales. I've got one of the sealed decks, that has the Error Ninetales.
Mhm.
I missed out on another one recently. I thought I had the deal sealed up, but somebody else ended up getting it. And then, but I mean, I collect the Dark Persians, all the inverted errors. I mean, I have binders full of errors. Anytime I get square cuts and stuff, I just kind of set them aside. I do sell some occasionally, but for the most part, I think a lot of them they're more niche, whatever you want to say.
Mhm.
And people like Reggie Gigas God or whatever it is on Instagram. I always think it's cool when he posts those super crazy miscut cards. I think he does one every single day, and he's got it for. Whoa, sorry, I started going to sleep.
No worries. Yeah.
He's got the shadowless ones, but to me, I'm surprised that I'm still able to find inverted Pikachus at $3,000. It was that price a year ago. And the last two that I got in auction, I got for the exact same price. Those really haven't increased that much in price like everything else has. Ghost Pikachu, I think a lot of light has been brought to that one. Brian at Rock Carolina, he's the one who discovered that, and he, I think the last one I got off him was maybe $300 or something like that, and now I'm looking for a PSA 10, and the only guy who has one, I mean, he asked me what I thought the value on that was. I'm like, it's probably worth $10,000. I mean, just because PSA doesn't grade them, the Ghost Pikachu is hard to find. I mean, it's way harder to find than a Red Cheeks first edition Pikachu from base set. I think that one's really popular, but I mean, it's nowhere near the same level of like hardness to find as the Pikachu is. And there's others still developing too, like the Beedrill. I mean, because that one just really come out. I mean, it was kind of known in the hobby, but it wasn't like confirmed or anything like that. And you know, who knows if somebody's going to ever have a PSA 10 of that one.
They probably go up slower because it's probably more of an acquired taste. Like when you have a wave of people coming in, they go after big stuff, and then the longer they're in it, they start to learn, and then it'll probably go up after that. So it's probably more of an acquired taste, but that means there's opportunity there.
Right.
Speaking of error cards, I recently got into the no number blueback Topson cards. I remember reaching out before I did the interview with Gary. I reached out to you, asked you if you knew much about them, and my opinion on those is I view them like shadowless cards. I don't see them as an error. I see them as an iteration that was changed. Do you think they're an error, or do you think they're the first print like I do?
I wish I had more historical evidence on, you know, the distribution and how they were printed, but to me, it makes sense that, you know, they would have been first, just because it just doesn't make like chronological sense to stick it in the middle and then like to change it, to take the numbers off and then put them back on again and change the back. But I wish I knew more information about it. I mean, this recent collection that I bought actually had, you know, a bunch of no number stuff in it, and I didn't realize how expensive that stuff was. I mean, someone just bought this Pikachu, which was it's an 8.
Oh, it's old? I was looking at it.
They bought it for $4,000. I'm just like, oh my! I would have never thought that it would have actually sold that, you know, before I started looking up the prices. And this guy had 2 other raw ones in his collection. So I mean, I think there is a demand for the no number cards just because it's different. You know, you've got the greenback Charizard with the number, and then you have the blue back with the number, and then you've got the blue back without the number. So people are going to want to have that no number one simply for the fact that it's different than the other two, and I think people are going to go for it. And it doesn't have a PSA 10 in existence. So, I mean, there's something for people to stretch for, you know, people to go for. It's a little bit tougher to get, so that when they have it in their collection, they feel like they accomplished something. Yeah,
I find myself buying just raw no number cards. To me, I feel like why buy a blue back if I get the no number? I don't know. I think some people feel that way. So you said the PSA 8 no number Pikachu sold for $4,000?
Yeah. That was this morning.
Wow. How did you stumble upon that collection? How'd you get all those?
He reached out to me.
Yeah.
And I checked. His name seems so familiar to me. I checked all my emails, and I couldn't find, you know, where we had done business in the past under the email that he had. But I know that we had to have somewhere along the line, because he had a base uncut wrapper. So either he bought that from me or Rock Carolina. And he also had a square cut Neo Revelation Celebi. And I was the guy who was selling all of those back when I first discovered that collection that had the match prints and FPOs. The same guy had 6 to 7 copies of all the square cut holographics from Neo Revelation. So I imagine we had done business somewhere. I lost the information of it, but he reached out to me, and we cut a deal pretty quick. So
wow,
it was really easy.
Now, I'm very envious of you, sir. You have a PSA 9, the highest rated no number Charizard on eBay right now.
Right.
I know you have a lot of boxes in there. Is it within arm's reach, or?
I can get one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, he had 2 of them in his collection, and I sent one back. Ooh. I don't know if you can see that. It's got a glare on it.
There you go. Yeah. So we had two of them, and you decided to only get one of them. Is that?
I mean, I may, if this one sells, then I might sell the other one. I mean, I put a ridiculous price on it, but somebody told me that it wasn't so ridiculous compared to what, is out there and the demand. He said there was some sales that might be coming through, but I don't know. It seems pretty high. So, I mean, if somebody was willing to pay that much, then, I might throw the other one up on there and just see what happens. But I set it back with, I've got a Charmander. It's a 10. That's a no number, but it has the number on the label. So that's why the pop still says 0. But it's actually a pop 1. And then he had the Charmeleon as well in a 10.
Do you ever feel like have you ever heard of like the 100th monkey, not syndrome, but the idea of the 100th monkey?
No.
It's based off this stuff we've noticed where these monkeys will start learning to do something with tools, and then after a certain amount of them, say 100, learn how to do something, then we'll see that behavior in monkeys on different islands. Like after a certain amount of people start looking into something, it like ingrains itself in like the unconscious, shared unconscious. I feel like that happens a lot in Pokemon, because as soon as do you feel like that happens? Like I start looking at something, and then a week later it'll kind of just explode. Have you noticed that? Or
occasionally, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's why a lot of people like keeping big sales or collection purchases, what they're investing in, kind of low key. Because if you start talking about, hey, I'm going to invest in Shining Legends, next thing you know, everybody's investing in Shining Legends. So now your cost of what you were buying for just increased.
Yeah. I wanted to go through a couple, I guess, rapid fire questions, if that's cool with you.
Fire away.
Okay. What do you see the future of unpopular first edition base set cards, like a Metapod or something? Do you think those are under or overvalued right now? Do you see them going up a lot, or they're unpopular?
I think when you're already at the bottom,
mm-hmm.
you can only go up. Everything else is probably going to keep on increasing. There's still going to be people who enter into the market who want to complete that very first set. Metapod is a part of that first set, so they're going to go for it. Some people might not even have a connection to the hobby so much as they do Pokemon in general or just a Charizard, and the rest of the cards are just there. And so they're going to buy everything just to complete the set. So I think it's going to continue to see an uptick, but it's just not going to be at the same exponential rate that we've been seeing for some of the cards like the Hollows, where everybody wants those.
Yeah. Okay. I asked Gary this. I guess this will be a thing now. Favorite 3 Charizards, and why?
Well, I like the Expedition Charizard. I just like the fact that he's kind of on his own, flying through the air, going for it. I mean, I do like the base set Charizard. I love that artwork, mainly because it's on the side of a base set box, which was, one of the first things that I bought, which the first one that I bought wasn't the green winged. It was the blue winged, which I believe is the one from the CD promo, which I kind of like that, but it's not really my favorite artwork.
Yeah.
And the other one, the other one that I do like is actually this artwork on the Charizard. If back when I had the shop, when it used to be under the Charizard Authority, or before Nintendo kind of got involved, on the back of the T-shirts was that artwork of the Charizard. It was slightly modified. I had somebody kind of work on it, but it was basically based off of that artwork of the Charizard because he's kind of just looking up. But for the cards themselves, Expedition would probably be my favorite one. After that, let me think about it. I kind of like Shining Charizard, but I'll definitely like Expedition more than that. I like Dark Charizard, but he's not one of my favorites. Gold Star Charizard, he's up there. He'd probably be second or third. I'm trying to think if there's another one. Man, I don't know. Expedition, I think, just takes it compared to the other ones for me.
Yeah, I picked up an Expedition a while ago because that's funny because that was my next question. Why is Expedition Charizard so unpopular or so low in price? I mean, the pop reports are much lower than like a Dark Charizard or even Blaine's, I believe.
Well, I think for a while the e-readers were so much easier to grade than a lot of the other cards. People just thought that I'm going to invest in the original stuff, the Gen 1, Gen 2. Once you got the e-reader, it started kind of changing things up, and that's when a lot of people got out of the hobby. So maybe they didn't connect as much. But for me, I love Expedition. It's actually one of my favorite sets. My favorite artwork of all time is the Mewtwo from that set.
Mm-hmm.
I like the look of the box. The orange just pops to me. But that would probably be the reason. I mean, other than that, I love the set. Expedition, like I said, is one of my favorite sets. I like the Charizard from it. I bought a PSA 10 when it was $2,500, and that was like 2.5 times more than the previous sale at the time, which was around $1,100 or so. That went through a PWCC or auction or something like that. And I thought I was crazy, but then 6 months later, or actually it was probably about 3 months later, it wasn't even that long. I think I saw the next one being listed at like $7,000 or something like that, and I don't even know where it's at now because I rarely see them.
English Southern Islands. What's your thoughts on it? I feel like basic jungle cards are selling for 2 or 3 times as much as Southern Island cards are. Why don't people appreciate English Southern Islands more than they do? Low pop, beautiful artwork. Was it because you got them all in a pack? There was no challenge to it, but that doesn't make sense anymore because the populations are so low.
I think it was relatively easy to attain for a while. This time last year, you could get a sealed binder, $300. Now it's about $2,000. I just won one at auction for $1,700 or so, but you still get a sealed, complete set of Southern Islands. You get those 3 packs. You get the binder. You get the postcards. I mean, it's still a really nice collection of cards you can get for $1,700. I mean, it's something anytime that I can get, usually for around that price or lower, I'm going to go for it. I mean, I personally don't like opening up that seal to pull out those 18 cards, but I mean, it's almost worth it. I mean, just the Togepi or Mew is worth twice that if you get it in a PSA 10. Like, I graded one of the sealed packs of Southern Islands. I'm glad I got that in before. I don't know if PSA is going to keep grading them or not, but I'm glad that they graded it because it keeps me from opening it. Like, I just want to open the thing because I still need some of the 10s. I remember at the Hartford Collectors event, I ended up taking some trade-ins. A guy had a complete Southern Islands PSA 10 set. I took in trade-in for $500. That's all that it was. It was that and some other stuff. He basically got $3,500 in trade-in, and he bought a PSA 8 first edition Charizard with it.
Wow.
A few weeks later, I sold that complete set to Charlie for $3,000, thinking that was going to be, it was a good profit. It was a great deal. But now I'm paying more. I'm trying to just find that Mew for more than that price.
Yeah.
The Togepi is going to be more than that price, and it's crazy. I think there has been a really good trend upwards of that set, but you can still find a raw, light play set for $200, which I think is a fantastic deal.
Yeah, I originally started collecting the PSA 9, copies to try to do the full set, and I need the Jigglypuff and the Licky Tongue left. And I tell you, I should have went with PSA 10s because it would have been, I probably would have completed it by now. Like,
right.
That Licky Tongue, I don't know where he's at. I've never seen a PSA 9 Licky Tongue. Okay, so a couple more. Your thoughts on vintage EX? Are they at the appropriate price right now? What do you think? They're special cards?
As you get progressing through the years, I mean, you're always going to be making your pool just a little bit smaller on how many collectors out there are really going to appreciate the cards themselves and the artwork. And you got to think at this time there weren't that many people even in the hobby. I mean, I remember even when I was in college, we were coming up on the end of the Level X era, and I would go to the Kmart and they would still have Dragon Frontiers, Crystal Guardians packs in there, and we just open them up like, oh look, there's a Dragonite EX, and then we'd go back and we'd want to go get a Level X 10. And I do think that they are underappreciated in a sense that they're pretty rare. I mean, they're tough to find, and some of the 10s are getting harder to find. A lot of people did grade them when it was a little bit easier, but they've got some really good artworks. They're genuinely pretty tough to grade for a lot of sets, and it's got a lot of mass appeal. I think in just the fact that they're rare, like they're a lot tougher to find. I mean, just try to find an EX series box. I mean, you're going to be looking at prices that are most likely going to be going higher than your Fossil or Jungle, which were your second and third set.
Yeah. Well, okay. 5 years down the road, what's your call? Which one of these will be more valuable of these two?
Hmm. I'd still go with the Charizard Gold Star.
You think so? Okay. Yeah. Good bet. Good bet. Okay. Last little topic, I guess. Pre-English Japanese cards. What? Do you have much knowledge about those, or I mean, besides the Top Sun?
It's pretty limited, but I do like the cards that have artworks that weren't duplicated on the English side.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was a guy, SMG Quest. He used to have a YouTube channel, and he'd do these sale videos where he'd go through these mass amounts of Japanese cards in singles that he would just want to sell. And basically, I told him any card that you have that's Japanese, if it didn't have a printing of the artwork on the English side, I'll give you $1 for it. And so he would always go to like those VHS cards and pull out the Coughings and the Electabuzz and the Magmars, the Arcanines, the ones that you could get in the quick starter decks and that kind of stuff. Anything that didn't have a duplicated artwork on the English side, I used to like those because it wasn't something that you could just attain on the English side itself. Like you had to buy it, from a Japanese version, and I'd go for them. And they were still easier to grade than the English copies. If you wanted to get a PSA 9 or PSA 10, but other than that, I don't know a whole lot about the trophies. Like I couldn't tell you too much about the price data. Where it started to where it's been. The big sales, that kind of stuff. The only trophy that I really have is the Lucky Stadium, and that's the one that I'd won off of. It was Heritage, and that was just recent. And that's because it's a dual English card, and it represents a card in the promo set. Like I said, I love my promos.
Yeah. Cool. Is there anything you feel like we didn't cover?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Whatever you want.
I think that's good, man. I think I feel like it went good. Do you feel like it went good?
I guess.